The importance of Olafur Eliasson's The Weather Project. The Weather Project was an installation that consisted of mixed media created by Olafur Eliasson. It was displayed in the Turbine Gallery in Tate Modern in London from late October 2003 to late March 2004. The Weather Project consisted of 200 low-sodium monofrequency lamps, which are usually seen in street lamps. The lamp's frequency emitted was so low that the only visible colors in the hall were yellow and black. He also used a mister with water and sugar, which gave a haze to the entire room, blurring the hard lines of figures and spreading the yellow light softer. Eliasson covered the ceiling in reflective foil, which not only reflected the glowing orb of lights, but also allowed the people observing the piece to look up and see themselves and everyone else. This exhibition was placed in a London museum. London has always been known as the Dreary City. It's a place where clouds hang low and block the sun. Locals know without looking at the forecast that it will probably be rainy. The placement of the Weather Project has such a big impact on its message because of its contrast of warmth and sunshine resembling lights against the cold tones and rainy weather outside the Tate. The time the Weather Project was put up is also quite significant to Eliasson's message. The early 2000s were a time when society was on the cusp of environmentalism. Many environmental movements began due to concerns about climate change, overpopulation, big oil, and big coal use. When the viewers were appreciating this piece, they were meant to reflect on how wonderful that feeling of the sun was and bring that experience back out onto the London streets with them. This would hopefully lead to more effort being put into the environmental efforts of the time. Olafur Eliasson is known for his environmentalist efforts through his art. Other works of his, like Life, an exhibition in which he flooded a gallery with pond water and opened it up to wildlife to support wildlife conservation in 2001, and Ice Watch, an installation of ice blocks in the middle of London to speak out against global warming in 2018. An interview with Olafur Eliasson and his head of design, Sebastian Behman, they both said that they were very nervous about how people would take in the Weather Project. They worried that it was not an intricate enough design or that people would miss the meaning behind it. Clearly their worries were for naught, as the people of London had taken quite a liking to it. It did not come out as bright as they had intended it to, and the bridge had obstructed their plans for the setting, and yet the product gradient and the multiple viewing angles, including the reflective foil on the ceiling, led to a very immersive and comfortable experience for the audience. Most of the handiwork was done by Eliasson and Behman themselves. They had an especially difficult time with the reflective ceiling idea even after they discovered the reflective foil. Most businesses weren't interested in their creation enough to help put it up. Behman said they hadn't quite thought about how the crowd would impact the space while designing it. It is now commented on by many sources, including Behman and Eliasson themselves, how the crowd brings the Weather Project together and brings an entirely new added meaning to the exhibition. Olafur Eliasson mentioned in his interview that he had been envisioning the way the sun sets against the sea, or the reflection in Edvard Munch's paintings. While the haze did create blurred lines in some pictures of the exhibition, as well as wavy lines in the reflection from the light source, the presence of such intense lines used in Edvard Munch's Scream were not very clear. While there is a very clear reflection of the light due to the foil, it is not distorted as in Edvard Munch's paintings. The Weather Project was created to further people's awareness about environmentalism by forcing people of London to experience an artificial nature that they can hardly ever attain naturally. The 200 low-sodium bulbs, along with their reflection on the ceiling, created a perfect circle that is clearly reminiscent of the sun. The yellow light emitted from the specially picked bulbs erased all other colors in the room, much like a sunset, right before the sun disappears. The idea is that the people viewing the Weather Project will be inspired by the emotion and comfort they felt while in the Tate, and therefore will push harder for environmentalism, conservation, and efforts against pollution. The Weather Project also had a very separate effect altogether. It brought the City of London together in such a comfortable way that hadn't been seen in years. The warm tones of the light, blurry mist, and simplistic style of the installment led to a relaxed viewing experience. The viewers would come for hours at a time. Some would lay down, some would make shapes to view in the mirrors, and some would just sit and enjoy the atmosphere. The absence of all other colors led to an indistinction from one person to another. People started to see others around them as another black shape, just like them. Eliasson mentioned that he wanted to overcome the polarized dichotomy of individuality and collectivity that sullies the political agendas of our world. I am very upset my existence just barely missed the Weather Project's lifetime. I was born in May of 2004. The idea of an atmosphere calm enough for people to fall asleep next to strangers sounds truly blissful to me. The collectivity created by taking away individual colors from people's clothing and skin is such a creative and bold way to show people how similar they are together. Yet their sizes, shapes, and actions show that they are still their individual selves. This intertwining of individuality and collectivity is what Eliasson was talking about, and he succeeded in creating it. When looking at the ceiling and talking about the weather, and possibly even the environment, the viewers are placed in a mindset in unison with one another. They see that it is not just them deciding to help with the environmental conservation efforts, but everyone collectively deciding to help through their individual decisions. This is the only way for us as a society to help save the environment, and Eliasson managed to clearly convey that message to his exhibition. The installation used high contrast between two colors, black and yellow. The light source from only one end of the hall, which created a gradient down the rest of the hallway to almost darkness. This large use of abstract values represents the two paths humanity can take with the environment. Environmental conservation efforts can be improved and we can live in a bright world, or they can stay minimal and the city's darkness will spread across the world. The pillars constructing the walls create lines leading to the viewer's eye to the reflective foil on the ceiling. Nope. The pillars constructing the walls creates a line leading the viewer's eye to the reflective foil on the ceiling. This is crucial to the installation's message because without the incentive to look up, the sense of community would be lost in a piece. The reflective foil on the ceiling gives the installation double the visual space, making the room seem much taller than it actually is. This extra space could give the viewers a sense of comfort since humans tend to feel safer in larger areas. The Weather Project deserves continued attention and study because it did something that not much other art has done. It created a comfortable environment for the group of viewers to feel safe in, while also creating a sense of community, along with creating awareness about our environment issues. This simple installment is so important to continue talking about because it was temporary and yet its message is still strong. Our world, the comfort we feel in nature. Our world, the comfort we feel in nature, is slowly fading. It is our job as a species who tarnish this intricate ecosystem to preserve it. Eliasson's The Weather Project showed how important the sun is to us even in the modern age, as it is the center of our world's survival. Deep down, we all still love the sun's warmth and recognize its continued service to our well-being. When we are face to face with this fact, we are forced to recognize the harm we have caused to the rest of the world around us. It is also important for the people of the modern day to actually understand what happens when you take away the fine details of people's appearance. While we as a society have been making improvements upon our sense of equality, it would still be beneficial to have no idea who anyone was except for the personalities in this as they stand right before you, or to see ourselves as just a bunch of shadows under the sun together. While the photos and videos may not do the Weather Project justice, as it was truly an experiential exhibit, teaching about the actions that the viewers had in sharing the conservation's. No. While the photos and videos may not do the Weather Project justice, as it was truly an experiential exhibit, teaching about the actions that the viewers had and sharing the conversations that went on in the hall during that time is crucial. Lastly, I'd like to speak on this image from the Weather Project. United States President George W. Bush had been in London to speak with Prince Charles and the rest of the Parliament on the Iraq War. This image clearly shows how the people of London felt about his presidency and decisions. Not only were people able to let their guard down in this exhibition, but they also felt empowered by their sense of collectivity to speak out against Bush's presence. And that's it. This part didn't really go with the supplied things for me to talk about, but I thought it was really important to mention because it just shows how much of community it created.